I've heard what you've been saying. Oh yes, I know. You've been saying, Jeff, your mustache looks terrific, but you know, lately, it's been getting, I don't know, a little shaggy around the edges. What's that all about? Okay, well, I'm going to tell you. I've done it all for you, my friends. Because in this video, I'm going to discuss some of the areas where a little bit of grooming can help make your mustache look really shipshape, and maybe some problem areas you've been wondering about. First off, let's start with length. Length is really up to you. If you're using a mustache like mine that loops around, the longer the better. However, if you're doing a little curl or little horns or something else, it's really up to you to decide the length. That's pretty standard, pretty obvious. Second thing, and this is where it gets a little more interesting, you will notice, as I lean in, that there are a couple of areas where you'll sometimes find the hairs a little bit out of place. The first one is sometimes there are little hairs on top that just seem to be a little off. I think I may have one right here. And the reason for these is that they're new hairs growing in, and until they're long enough to really mesh with the others, they sometimes stick out a bit. So it's up to you to decide whether to trim them or whether to just let them grow out and join the rest of the gang, which is what they'll pretty much do eventually. Another area which you may have noticed I've gotten a little grizzled lately is down here underneath. And the reason that this area is growing out a little bit on me anyway is that this part of your face around the base of the mustache is going to determine sort of the angle and the sweep of the mustache. Once you've had it growing for a while and you tend to shave it every day, if you're not careful, you may find yourself undercutting, and you will begin to notice your mustache getting higher and smaller and higher and smaller as you go. And if that's the case, you just have to grow it out a little more here, because the root of the mustache will determine where it sits on your face to a great degree and what angle it sits at. Partially, it's also the way your hair naturally grows. But if you find your mustache getting a little higher, a little more of that Hercule Poirot thing, and you may not want that, of course you might, you may want to let it grow out a little bit. If you're going for a big cowboy sweep, obviously you want to have a lot of hair down here and get the curve going really down. Now, I found my mustache has been getting a little high on me, so I've been growing this area out a little bit. Now, it looks a little shaggy now, and it's going to have to grow a little bit longer before it meshes with the curls and the whole thing kind of has a little more elegant sweep. But it's going to happen, and I may trim it down just a little bit. Again, this is up to you to decide, but this part of the mustache, this area here, will determine the sweep. Now, if you want to go for some really fancy pirate curl, of course you'll grow that fairly long. The one thing to consider when you're doing this is that the natural movement of your mouth is going to cause this area to flex a little more than other parts of your face, and because of that, it may be a little difficult to wax. But that, again, really depends on the individual and your commitment to the mustache. Third area to consider, and this is the trickiest one, but again also the most obvious one, is right down here. Little hairs, sometimes they call them bristle hairs. There are little hairs that grow right over your lip, and for most guys, these little fellas will never really grow long enough to mesh with a mustache. They just kind of come down and dust your upper lip. These guys can be trimmed off without too much trouble. And you can let them grow if you want, but they really, I think, detract a little bit from the overall sweep of the mustache. And you can trim them either with scissors. These are some slightly rusty little Chinese scissors. They're nice because they have big handles, so you get a lot of control. Or you can use nail scissors, or what they call mustache scissors, and just trim that back, just like that. Or you can use some kind of a little trimmer. This one is by Wall. There are many different brands, and most of them work pretty well. And they'll also be great for grooming. And you can just nip those guys right off there. I'll touch that up a little more, but you get the idea. And instantly you get a much more dramatic, much more well-defined mustache. If you want it to stand out, of course, you want it to be clear, not too much fuzz around the edges. Hope that has answered some of your questions about mustache grooming. By all means, write in if you have any other questions, any other comments, and I will be more than happy to cover and maybe even demonstrate. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.